Vote has also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories, arguing the president has the power to use the military against protesters.
They're digging out the high school pictures. Oh no. Oh no.
She knows what the best price for all goods and services are.
That would be a horrendous idea.
Now, it's supposed to be paid up with interest, and the interest rates are to control it.
Oh, God.
I see.
So, we'll see.
Interesting.
Meadowcroft offers to set up a meeting with his boss, Russ Vogt.
You could put me in touch with somebody who looks after his diary or
Wow,
whatever.
Kitty Slayer, 666, thanks.
Schedule, yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Great.
So just tell me when to do that.
We want to meet the man writing the game plan for Trump's second administration. Vogt believes that in his first term, Trump's agenda was frustrated by what he calls the deep state.
Project Veritas has poisoned me into thinking all undercover journalism like this is always incredibly misleading. How accurate or reliable do you think this is? I agree with you. I generally look for third-party corroborating sources, or I look to see what is the extent of the material that the original people publish. Like if you're willing to publish your full interviews and a whole bunch of other stuff, then I'm probably more likely to give it more credibility, but I usually look for third-party corroboration.
Vogt believes that in his first term, Trump's agenda was frustrated by what he calls the deep state. So Vogt is planning a radical centralization of government power under the president, firing civil servants and ending the independence of agencies like the FBI and DOJ.
80% of my time is working on the plans of what's necessary to take control of these bureaucracies. And we are working doggedly on that, whether it's destroying their agency's notion of independence, they're independent from the president.
Vogt has also been preparing documents based on fringe legal theories, arguing the president has the power to use the military against protesters.
George Floyd obviously was not about race. It was about destabilizing the Trump administration. Right. We put out, for instance, a 50-page paper designed for lawyers to know that the president has...
Is that like a meme, that lawyers and liars? It sounded almost like he was going to say liars there, right? Am I hallucinating that?
Designed for lawyers to know that the president has, the ability both along the border and elsewhere to maintain law and order with the military, and that's something that it's going to be important for him to remember and his lawyers to affirm. But
what an accent!
We've given them the case for that.
With loyalists installed in key government agencies and armed with his playbook, Vogt believes a radical Christian nationalist agenda can be realized under a second Trump presidency.
Based,
for example, on abortion.
So I think the president's actually come up with a strategy that works, so long as you are giving people like me in the government the ability to block funding for Planned Parenthood, block funding for fetal tissue research. But what I've told people is he had the most pro-life record ever. I've never seen him to stand in the way of a pro-life initiative that actually was real, politically and with momentum.
And for Vogt, Trump's pick for vice president shows he's serious about pushing this ideological agenda when in power.
So I am very happy with the JD pick. I think it's transformative for sure. Yeah. And think of him as a member version of what we do.
Yeah.
So there's no think tank, no policy organization, no battle plan creator other than us for the worldview that I think Donald Trump has.
Who is the camera guy supposed to be, and why are these people opening up to them so much? Supposedly they tried to sneak in as a donor, and they're getting a breakdown on what they would be donating to, I guess.
And that JD has.
But as public backlash against these plans builds, the Trump campaign has been scrambling to distance themselves from Project 2025's authors.
It's complete and utter bullshit for any reporter to write that this is the way it is. The president has made it clear these people do not speak for him. They do not speak for the campaign.
But Vogt tells us that behind the scenes, things are much friendlier. The Trump campaign recently picked him to write the Republicans' policy platform, making him essentially Project 2025's man on the inside.
I think the best example is the campaign selected me to be the platform because of their views on my policy ideas, and they're not running from all of the negativity that I get from the press.
I see. So they haven't been spooked on you as a person, you don't think?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be their transition pick because then they have all these kinds of stories.
Yeah.
But no, the relationship is great.
The head of the Trump transition team has not yet been appointed, but Vogt says that no matter who is named, he'll be able to hand over his Project 2025 battle plans directly.
If it's someone like a Stephen Miller or Bob Lighthizer, then all the stuff gets plugged right in. If it's not, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But all of it will be designed for a theory of the case that President, if a battle plan is out there that will do what he wants, there are the people like me that have his trust that will be able to get it to him in whatever position we're at, or I could be at Center for New America, but the relationships will be there, the trust level will be there.
Project 2025's Radical Phase 1 policy book turned into a PR disaster.
The director of Project 2025 has stepped down after facing criticism from both Democrats and the Trump campaign.
But Vogt's Phase 2 battle plans, top secret and handed directly to the transition team, remain unburdened by the brand.
Wow.
And are you going to rebrand that second phase at all?
For what I do,
Yeah.
the brand's not important.
And you're not worried that if it has Project 2025 on, he's going to go
No.
And you're not going to publish those?
No.
They go straight to...
Yeah, they're very, very close hold. Yeah.
Okay.
Brilliant. It's been an education.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
You can show stuff out.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Wow. Crazy. If there is a difference between Nazism and fascism, I have no idea if there is or isn't. Do you think eugenics lines up more with the former or latter? Follow-up question coming. Nazism would be a very particular type of fascism, I would say. But keep in mind that when we talk about government types or government structures or things like fascism or authoritarianism, not authoritarian, I'm sorry, things like fascism or socialism or democracy, all of these things can mean a lot of different things as well. They point you in a certain direction. It's not like a hardcore, delineating, all-encompassing and all-exclusionary definition of what a thing is. But the Nazis would have been considered a type of fascist party that would probably be more prone to eugenics than fascists in general, but okay, I'll watch this. I don't care much about the 2025 shit. I know some people do, but there you go. If you care, you can feel something about that. They're digging out the high school pictures. Oh no. JD Vance poses with 3 high school girls in a boys' restroom as they pretend to use the urinals. Are these the trans bathroom invaders that they warned us about? What's the first thing I've written? Oh, we're supposed to watch that Ryan Macbeth video. Happened to walk into Bedminster for Trump presser at the same time he appeared to be coming in from his round of golf. He's chatting here with My Pillow CEO Mike Lindell. I thought this guy fell off the face of the earth. What the fuck? Oh no. Why does this picture exist? What circumstances have to occur to make something like that happen? Oh no, don't make me defend Vance. Or fight with chat. Kid, when you're in high school, you just you do a lot of dumb shit. You take retarded pictures of whatever. That perfectly sounds like something a 15-year-old, oh, let's take a picture. Let's go in the girls' bathroom, take a picture. Let's go into the boys' bathroom, take a picture. That sounds exactly like something some retarded fucking 15, 16-year-old would say.
People who fall for this junk, I gotta tell you, you're a moron if you fall for this.
Is yarmulke getting bigger?
You fall for the idea that the reason prices are going up is because people got greedier in the last 3 years, not because Joe Biden and team completely blew out the spending because the interest rates were way too low for too long. If you think it's not that, you think that it's just Bob down at the local hardware store has been jacking up the price of hammers. I don't think you know how basic economics works. The very foolish notion that greed dictates prices suggests there's no one on the other side of the table. Yeah, listen, you know what? As a person who likes to make money, I will sell you this pen for $1 million. For $1 million. Any takers? I'm greedy. I'm going to sell this pen for $1 million to you right now. Now, can I actually sell a pen for $1 million? No matter how greedy I am? The answer is no, because you can buy 1 million pens like this for $1 million. Because the pricing mechanism is not dependent on the subjective feelings of the seller. It is dependent on the subjective feelings generally of the purchaser. You don't think it's worth $1 million. You ain't going to spend $1 million on this stupid pen.
Do I simplify econ this much? Or do I clarify that when I speak simplistically, there's a whole bunch of other things that could impact it? Like, in a way, he's right. I try to hedge this appropriately. When I push back against other people's simplistic explanations and I explain why they're wrong, I usually try to say the explanation on the other side is pretty complicated as well. He is right that people can't just be greedy, but he would be wrong to say that greed could never influence prices. Like, there's a lot of different things at play in any given market at any given time, right? Like, I could take a product that's a shit product and then slap green on it. I might be able to sell that piece of shit for $5 more. You never know, right? Depending how many people go to coffee shops or whatever because it's like cruelty-free beans or whatever. Like, is it gonna make you sell like a $5 cup of coffee for $20? Probably not. But can you push a $5 cup of coffee for like $5.40 or $5.50? If it's maybe, who knows? Like, there's a whole bunch of shit that goes into pricing stuff that I do agree it's stupid when people are like, oh, prices are just higher because of greed. That's dumb. It's probably not true. Highly unlikely. The markets are generally too competitive for that to happen. But, I mean, you can't just then go ahead and simplify it on the other side and say like, oh, well, obviously prices can only ever be influenced by consumer demand. And there's no other way that a demand or that a supplier can ever influence the way that people are, choosing to buy or sell certain goods or certain, like.
On the subjective feelings of the seller. It is dependent on the subjective feelings generally of the purchaser. You don't think it's worth $1 million. You ain't going to spend $1 million on this stupid pen. This is the biggest load of horse crap. They've been dumping that. It is astonishing to me how economically illiterate Americans are, apparently. So now Vice President Harris is going to call for price controls. Yes, that's worked everywhere. It's been tried, including in Soviet Russia. Price controls. She knows what the best price for all goods and services are.
That would be a horrendous idea. It's such a bad idea, I'm not even worried about it. It's actually such a horrible idea, I'm not even worried about it because there is no shot that this would gain any support as soon as it touches a single individual that has any concept of what's going on. Let's see what she's talking about here. Kamala Harris to propose ban on price gouging for food and groceries. Vice President Kamala Harris on Friday will unveil a proposed ban on price gouging in the grocery and food industries, embracing a strikingly populist proposal in her most significant economic policy announcement, speaking of the Democratic Party's nominee. In a statement released late Wednesday night, the Harris campaign said that if elected, she would push for the first ever federal ban on food price hikes with sweeping new powers for federal authorities. Harris on Friday will also announce plans to lower prescription drugs and housing. Economic populism. What does this price gouging ban look like? I will say we're already significantly different than the implication of what he's saying in terms of price controls here. But I'm curious but price gouging, I mean, how do you define that though? Plan will include the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, setting clear rules of the road to make clear that big corporations can't unfairly exploit consumers to run up excessive corporate profits on food and groceries. These activities of campus are not immediately clear, but Harris should aim to enact a ban with an partner to harsh penalties on firms that break new limits on price gouging. The statement identified gouging. Oh, so we have no idea. Okay, we have absolutely no idea. I feel like food and groceries are like one of the most competitive markets that exist in the United States. If there was like price gouging going on, I would be really surprised if it was happening in these sectors. Like, there's so many different distributors and manufacturers of like different food, so many different grocery stores. There's so many people involved in these markets. I would be really surprised if this was like a significantly gouged market, but that's, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think there's no way. I don't think there's any way that anything like that passes. That'd be my guess. But
yes, that's worked everywhere. It's been tried, including in Soviet Russia. Price controls. She knows what the best price for all goods and services are. She knows what those prices look like. She knows because in that little pea brain of hers, she has calculated out the subjective.
What is price gouging? Price gouging is the idea, I believe, that somebody is unfairly taking advantage of some temporary circumstance to increase the price of a given good or service way past what it should ever reasonably be priced at, in a way that's like taking advantage of some kind of like emergency situation. Basically, it's like price gouging. So like imagine during COVID, like grocery stores would have start charging, I can't even think. I don't know. Some like $5,000 for toilet paper or something, right? People say like, oh, that's price gouging.
Desires of 340 million Americans and gauge those against the amount of money they have in their pockets. And so she knows precisely what prices should be. Not the market mechanism, not the aggregated desires that are the pricing mechanism in a free market economy. No, it's just her. Because in that tiny pea brain, the workings are so complex. The workings are so unbelievably nuanced that she knows the price of all the goods and services, which is why she can impose price controls, thus fixing the inflationary economy. Quote, is Politico. Vice President Kamala Harris on Friday will call on Congress to pass a federal ban on price gouging.
Is putting a price ceiling, that would be a type of price control, right? It must be, right? Price control could probably be setting a ceiling or a floor, or telling exactly our minimum or maximum prices for set goods or services. Yeah. I mean, it could be, like, there's a way that you could do a price gouging enforcement that would be okay, I guess. It would just depend on what, what it actually looked like. But without any details, it's hard to criticize it or support it. But that won't keep Ben from doing it, though.
As part of her economic platform to lower grocery prices and everyday costs. That action, to be announced during a speech in North Carolina, is among others she will take in her first 100 days in office to lower high grocery costs, according to a campaign official. Do you understand this economic policy is the same thing as Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy in the office? She's literally saying that she's going to go into Congress and shout, no high prices! And then they'll pass a law that says no high prices, and then there will be no high prices. That's not how the world works. That's not how it works. You can't declare bankruptcy by shouting that you've declared bankruptcy, and you can't lower high prices by passing a law saying no high prices.
I'm being needlessly pedantic, but that's stupid. You can't declare bankruptcy by shouting, I declare bankruptcy, because you literally can't declare bankruptcy that way. You can put on price controls by passing legislation that puts on price controls and literally do that. You absolutely can. Now, all your private industry might leave because it's not worth it to sell any products at that price. They might all just abandon the country, but you can do that. That's literally how you do that. But, whatever.
It's like in the 1920s when the world passed an international law banning all war. And then a decade later was the bloodiest war in the history of the earth. You can't just ban reality by passing a law. Oh, God, this kind of stupidity. It's unreal. Kamala,
by passing a lawing? Is that what he just said?
You can't just ban reality by passing a law. Oh,
wow.
God, this kind of stupidity. It's unreal.
Yikes.
Kamala keeps running away from the questions, but there is a question you cannot run away.
And that's, when will you buy gold as a hedge against inflation?
From, and that is if you get behind on your taxes. Handling that alone.
That too. Pay your taxes, though, in gold. Buy gold to pay your taxes.
It can be a huge mistake and cost you thousands of bucks. In these challenging times, your best offense is Tax Network USA.
And by Tax Network USA, he means buy gold to pay them.
With over 14 years of experience, the experts at Tax Network USA have saved their clients millions in back taxes. Regardless of the size of your tax issue, their expertise will work to your advantage. Tax Network USA offers 3 key services: protection, compliance, and settlement. Upon signing up, Tax Network USA will immediately contact the IRS to secure a protection order, ensuring that aggressive collection activities like garnishments, levies, or property seizures are halted. If you haven't filed in a while, if you need amended returns, or if you're missing records, Tax Network USA's expert tax preparers will update all your filings to eliminate the risk of IRS enforcement. Then, they create a settlement strategy to reduce or eliminate your tax debt. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. Now that tax season is over, collection season has begun. The IRS is the largest collection agency in the world. Now that tax season is over, collection season has begun. Tax Network USA can even help with state tax issues. For a complimentary consultation, call today 1-800-958-1000 or visit their website at tnusa.com/Shapiro. That is 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Shapiro today. Do not let the IRS take advantage of you. Get the help you need with Tax Network USA. Elevated everyday costs have plagued the Biden-Harris administration since Americans' grocery bills spiked during the pandemic. I love the writing here. They've plagued the Biden-Harris.
How to claim you're part of a $45 million Walmart settlement. All right, that's actually probably pretty small in the grand scheme of things. Wait, hold on. Let's see if we can guess. Let's see if I can just get within like an order of magnitude, okay? What do I think Walmart's revenue was in 2023? I'm going to guess it would never be like $1 trillion. That's way too high. Would it be in the hundreds of billions? Is $1 trillion too high for Walmart? That's so much money. That's so much money. Revenue. We're just guessing revenues. I'm going to say they sell so much. There's so many, but that would be so high. I'm going to say I want to say 500 billion. That's so much money though. But it's just revenue. Does Walmart seem like a company that would make 50 billion? I don't even know what their stock trades at. I don't even know. Wait, does Walmart even have a stock? Or is that still like privately owned by the fucking Walton family people? Or do they just have a big share? Have I ever heard of a Walmart stock before? Wait, I don't actually fucking know. I'm going to guess 500 billion. That's it. All right, let's go. Okay, let's go. Wait, first of all, is there a Walmart stock? Yeah, there is. Why do I never hear anybody ever talk about Walmart? Does anybody ever talk about this? Damn. Well, I don't actually know if this is beating the market or not. Walmart. Revenue 2023. Is this quarterly? 115 billion. Because if so, that would mean it was about 400 billion. We take those. Anyway, so this settlement is very, very, very small to Walmart, but okay. How much profit? I think usually these are around like 10%, you would assume, right? So probably 40, 50, 60 billion in profit. Some Walmart customers may be entitled to claims up to $500. A lawsuit filed on October 19th, 2022. Claim that Walmart overcharged shoppers for in-store purchases of certain weighted grocery items, including poultry and pork, and for bagged citrus. The lawsuit accused the company of unfair and deceptive business practices that resulted in higher costs than what were advertised. Falsely inflated product weight, mislabeled products, and overcharged for clearance products sold by weight. What do you think? Did they like include the cost of packaging, or what would be the... They overcharged for certain items prices for weighted products, including meat, poultry, pork, and seafood, sometimes differed between the item labels and the labels on the shelves. And customers were charged for the higher prices at checkout. They were labeled with a weight that was lower than what appeared on the shelf tags, and customers were charged for a heavier weight on the products than what they took home. Oh, never mind. I thought this was way more juicy. Huh. Okay.
Harris administration, not Americans. And the Biden-Harris administration, they're basically sitting there. They're innocent bystanders in all this inflation stuff. Unlike they were in charge of the economy. Harris is hoping to capitalize on I love the writing here. They've elevated everyday costs have plagued the Biden-Harris administration since Americans' grocery bills spiked during the pandemic. I love the writing here. They've plagued the Biden-Harris administration, not Americans. And the Biden-Harris administration, they're basically sitting there. They're innocent bystanders in all this inflation stuff. Unlike they were in charge of the economy.
What does he mean by that? Biden and Harris were in charge of the entire economy? And it's like, okay.
Harris is hoping to capitalize on new data this week that showed slowing food inflation. Her plans to bring down grocery prices are a key part of broader plans to lower costs for Americans. She'll announce on Friday. No, it's not. That is not going to work. That is not going to work. So what are they actually going to do? They're going to rely on the Federal Reserve to cut rates in September and hopefully jack up the amount of spending in the economy just in advance of the... Who could have predicted such a thing? Who could have predicted that, 2 months before the election, month and a half before the election, the Federal Reserve would inject a bunch of money into the economy?
Inflation is still high. The Federal Reserve shouldn't be cutting rates at all, right? St. Louis Fed inflation. What are we at right now? Market pricing in a 25 BP rate cut at SEP meetings. You need to look at SOFR futures. Okay, I'm good. As soon as you said futures, I stopped caring. Okay, consumer price indexes. Yes. Okay. Personal consumption expenditures. Chain type price index. Why am I... What showed me the percentage change year over year? What am I looking for? What was the name? What's the name of the graph that does the year over year changes? Go to PCE, edit graph units, percent change year over year. Edit graph units. Oh. Thank you. I love you.
Hey, Destiny. So you're struggling
Here we
a
go.
bit.
We got it. We figured it out. Percentage change. Is it percentage? It would be percentage change from a year ago, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And we're looking at 5 years. It's still north of 2.5%. What does the Fed rely on for inflation predictions?
I'm not sure. I'm assuming that they look at. I mean, they get advanced survey data, I guess, so they probably use that to set policy. And there's something called the Taylor rule, which they don't actually use the Taylor rule, but the Taylor rule can be a decent directional barometer for where rates are going to end up going. But
Federal Reserve rates. Is there any indication right now that they plan on cutting rates?
that's where all the speculation is. You can look up Federal Reserve rate cut probability or something. You know, people bet on basically if the Fed's going to cut rates, and that's usually relatively predictive.
What is? Wait, say that thing again.
I think you can look up something like Federal Reserve rate cut probability, and you'll be able to find. I'll try to find it real quick. You'll be able to find like basically where the markets think that the Fed is going to go with regards to rate.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, and it's because the inflation goal is 2%, right?
Yeah, like that's the target.
That's the target. Okay.
Yeah, and the PCE is what they target. So the speculation is that they're gonna cut rates because they see the softening labor market and the softening economy, and it's probably in my opinion, it's probably a correct intuition that it's better to have 3% inflation in exchange for full employment and lowering rates than to maintain high rates and risk a recession.
What's the target for unemployment?
I actually don't know if the Fed has ever released an explicit unemployment target. Of course, they have to dual mandate, of course, but I don't think that they have unemployment has to be below a certain amount. Part of that's because full employment can kind of change over time as your structural employment changes. But yeah, they seem to recognize that the economy is at or near full employment. This last jobs report was actually pretty interesting because unemployment jumped a decent chunk because so many additional people basically enter the labor market. So.
Okay.
Yeah, fun stuff. Why are you looking this up again? I forgot.
He said that because he's just railing on Kamala for everything, and he mentioned, man, he's got a good frowny face here. That the Federal Reserve is cutting rates soon, and I wasn't sure if that was the case or not. I hadn't heard anything about that.
That's where a lot of speculation is coming in. I mean, I linked you the prediction markets or the Fed Watch tool. I think this is a prediction market, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that right now the chance of easing rates is at 100%, according to this. So there's a serious
easing rates. Does that mean lowering them or not increasing them?
Lowering them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so there's a no change in what I linked you. There's a no change in a hike percentage. And
wait. Hold on. Wait. Let me. Okay. I've got this thing open.
Yeah. Okay.
Where do you see? Okay. The current target rate is 525 to 550 basis points.
And so lowering it to 500 to 525 would be 25 basis points, quarter percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one would be a half a percentage point cut.
Oh, okay. So, and then right now this market has it at almost basically guaranteed. And it's saying there's a 74% chance it'll be a 25 point cut. And I'm guessing there's some like a lesser percent chance that they would cut by even more aggressively. Oh, I see down here. That they would cut 50 BPs. Okay. I got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people were saying there should be an emergency cut because of the weak July data, but that may have caused more harm than good if they had an emergency meeting.
Sure.
But, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, Ben is kind of bloviating. It's kind of bizarre to see just because at the same time that Kamala is being criticized for being too vague on her economic policy, Ben is like, these are the very specific consequences of these specific policies. Like, well, she didn't, I mean, you can criticize her for being vague, but it's hard to say that there's going to be super catastrophic consequences to a policy plan that isn't even fully detailed yet. I mean, the speech is on Friday, so
sure.
I read an article that said part of what she'll talk about is basically mergers and acquisitions and trying to take kind of a harsher antitrust stance on the food market, which I think that I want to say the amount of consolidation on basically food production has actually been very, very high. I'm not sure if that's to say that there's huge problems with that market concentration, but I think that that's most of what maybe practically will end up happening, is just taking a super antitrust, aggressive stance on mergers and acquisitions within that industry. But I don't know. I can't imagine that she would propose like actual sort of price controls for food, retail, basically food prices. That'd be pretty insane, but
Okay.
maybe it's possible.
All right. Well,
So,
I love
yeah.
you.
2 months before the election, month and a half before the election, the Federal Reserve would inject a bunch of money into the economy just in time for the reelect. Who could have predicted such a thing, except for everyone who has a shred of insight into how politics and the Federal Reserve cross paths? Core inflation
The implication here is the Fed would only lower rates to help commie mommy. Okay.
is still 3.2%, which is 1.2% higher Reserve cross paths. Core inflation is still 3.2%, which is 1.2% higher than 2%, which is to say more than 50% higher than it's supposed to be. And they're like, oh, no, time to cut the rates. Time to cut the rates. Now's the moment. It's absolutely amazing. Donald Trump, down on the campaign trail, is going after Kamala Harris on the economy. He says that she is actually waiting for him to announce his economic plan so she can copy them, which is a good line and true.
Kamala Harris won't end the economic crisis. She will only make it worse. And why hasn't she done it? She talks about it. She's doing a plan. She's going to announce it this week, maybe. She's waiting for me to announce it so she can copy it.
It's true. It's true. By the way, her other big policy prescriptions, when she's not out there saying that we should pass a law to say high prices are bad, her other big policy prescriptions are basically universal basic income, as the Wall Street Journal points out. Universal basic income is this foolish idea that if you give everybody a check in the mail, that this will magically heal poverty, as opposed to just inflating the prices, which is actually what that does. When you helicopter money, which is what the Federal Reserve tried to do for years, what you end up doing is increasing the prices, because the market adjusts to the amount of money flowing through the economy. Are you tired of the lies and the twist of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.
If I believe the economy works as simplistically as Ben says that it works, then I feel like his positions are a bit contradictory. Let's say that, so he says UBI means that if you give everybody money, then it would cause inflation because people would just raise prices. But if people only raise prices because people have more money, then in that case, wouldn't price controls be a good thing? Couldn't you just put in a price ceiling and say, well, even though there's all this money chasing the same goods and services, we're going to put a price control in here, and then now it'll be okay? Yeah, like if that's how Ben reads the economy, like what would his answer be for why that wouldn't work then? I don't know. What dollar amount would you put a successful UBI program? I have no idea. I haven't looked at any of the data or any of the research that's come out about UBI stuff. I've seen like headlines that seem to be kind of contradictory, but I don't know. I have no idea. What's the incentive for producers to make things? The incentive for producers to make things is for profit, right? Do you see the NBR working paper about how UBI seems bad? Yeah, I'd like headlines. I've heard about this, that it, yeah, but I haven't read this, so I have no idea what the actual impacts. I don't know what this paper said in detail. I've only seen like posts about it saying that apparently this NBER paper said that it ended up heavily discouraging work or something, or it wasn't that great. But I didn't read it, so I'm not sure. Tim Pool's take on the same subject. Oh, yeah, he put it right at the beginning. Okay, let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen,
We're doing this for like 5 minutes, okay?
it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Kamala Harris has begun to release her campaign policy positions, and it's kind of surprising. You'd think she'd try to avoid this stuff, but I also guess kind of surprising to very few. Her first policy position is literal communism.
To be clear, I want to say in the United States, I think there are already laws against during COVID, weren't people arrested for hoarding and then reselling at higher prices? What is the law against this? Are these state laws, federal laws? Let's look it up. Laws against hoarding, natural disasters. Is this it? Is this a federal thing or is this a state thing? Or let's see. In order to prevent hoarding, this was in 1950. No person shall accumulate in excess of the reasonable demands of business, personal, or home consumption for the purpose of resale at prices in excess of prevailing market prices, materials which have been designated by the president as scarce materials or materials the supply of which will be threatened by such accumulation. The president shall order published in the Federal Reserve, in the Federal Register, and in such other manner as he may deem appropriate, every designation of materials, the accumulation of which is unlawful. Okay, so is this passed right now? 50 USC 5412. Been watching your old debates. Seems like you have a good understanding of both sides of the arguments a lot of times. Could you do like recaps after debates? Yeah, the recap is I'm based and they're lame. 50 USC, okay, 4512. Okay. In making such designations, the president may prescribe such conditions with respect to the accumulation of materials in excess of the reasonable demands of business, personal, or home consumption as he deems necessary to carry out the objectives of this manner. This section shall not be construed to limit the authority contained in sections 5411 and 4511 and 4554. Priority in contracts and orders, and regulations and orders. So the president does have the ability. Did this happen during COVID? COVID, hoarding, 4512. Federal crackdown on hoarding and gouging during the COVID-19 crisis. Imagine it's spring 2020, you're in a warehouse. Today's legal landscape. The possibility of these types of scenarios is all too real, and so are the potential criminal and civil penalties that could flow forth from them. The Defense Production Act of 1950, 50 U.S.C. 4512, okay, that's what we just read, generally prohibits individuals and entities from hoarding materials that have been deemed to be scarce. Okay. Recently, an executive order was issued under which several categories of goods had been designated as scarce or threatened. Okay, so this was the federal statute then that, and then it was by executive order. This was added to the Federal Register. Okay, cool, gotcha. Okay, so this is already a thing the president can do. Now, to be fair, Kamala Harris might be talking about something different, a different type of law. We really don't know because she hasn't said anything in detail, so I don't know how we're going to do a whole section criticizing it. But I also know that banning price gouging or looking at anything like this has literally nothing to do with communism. It's already part of the federal code, and presidents in the United States have already done this. So unless we are, maybe he would say we already are communist. But okay, let's find out what he says.
I also guess kind of surprising to very few, her first policy position is literal communism. She's backing price gouging bans, okay, which literally means price controls. Price gouging is a relatively nonsense term. There are certain contexts where you can argue there's actual price gouging.
Price gouging is a nonsense term. If I'm being charitable, it can be sometimes, sure. It could be nonsense depending upon. But again, it's hard to say without actually seeing what she's going to be talking about.
But generally it means private businesses can't set their own prices. Oh, I'll talk to you all about price gouging, and I think it should be totally allowed. You can charge whatever you want for whatever you want. Now, if a group of businesses get together and conspire to fix prices, what's price fixing? Price fixing is different. That's anti-competitive. But Kamala Harris, along with Joe Biden, are making the arguments. Biden first made the argument that the reason prices are too high right now is not because of, hundreds of billions of dollars being spent on Ukraine, mass spending and government mismanagement, open borders, and
I don't believe we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine. Didn't the last aid package, was it how much money in actual cash or money, or was it just loan guarantees? Was it 30 billion? How much money have we spent? How much actual cash have we spent on Ukraine since the beginning of the entirety of the conflict? How much money in cash? The thing is, I don't even know if it was cash or if it were like if they were loan reserves or not loan reserves, sorry, loan guarantees. How much money in cash United States spent on Ukraine? How much U.S. aid money is going to Ukraine? So this last bill is in April, 61.3 billion. I don't know. I don't think this is cash. Is this including all? Oh, wait, here we go. Or is this just cash? Okay, from the total 175 billion in U.S. spending, 107 billion goes to Ukraine. The budget support is 34.2 billion, and then weapon equipment and other military support is 70 billion. This is so the denomination of cash here is for weapons. I'm assuming, I think. Because it could be that we're spending money too if we're like replacing stuff as well, that we might be. But also if we're spending money to replace stuff, technically that money, I guess it would depend on where the things are manufactured. Because if we spent, let's say that we like, okay, so the level one argument would be, wow, we sent $20 billion to Ukraine. Then the counter would be, well, hold on, it's not $20 billion in weapon, or it's not $20 billion in cash. We're actually sending weapons and stuff. And then the counter to that argument would be, well, okay, sure, but we still have to replace that stuff. So it's still $20 billion sent. worth of stuff, basically, because we have to buy it again. But then the counter to that argument, well, okay, sure, but it's $20 billion going back into manufacturing in the U.S. economy. And then the counter to that would either be, well, it's not like we're making that here, we import it, or it's just government spending, so it's bad. But it's not like just money that's just like lost to Ukraine forever, right? But also, wait, yeah, that's true too. Hold on. If the United States was just shipping hundreds of billions of dollars of cash over to Ukraine, would that be deflationary? Unless they're borrowing to do it. If you could put $100 billion of cash into U.S. pockets or send $100 billion in cash to Ukraine, the immediate effect, I imagine, would be deflationary. Now, that USD could make it back to the U.S. in the form of other types of external investment, but immediately, I imagine, it would be deflationary. No. Unless you just print a new $100 billion to do it, I guess, right? I don't know. Fuck macroecon and fuck all this cuck shit. I'm sure Temple has a very comprehensive understanding of all this stuff, so we'll just let him talk it through it.
Oh, it's not because of, I don't know, hundreds of billions of dollars being spent on Ukraine, mass spending and government mismanagement, open borders, and a flood of...
Oh, that too. Open borders and the flood, of course. True.
Low-skilled workers displacing other low-skilled workers. No. They're saying the real argument is it's those dang corporations. They've decided just to charge you more money for no reason. They're allowed to. Thank you and have a nice day. If McDonald's wants to charge $50 for a cheeseburger, they're allowed to do it. And the argument is, yeah, but all the other restaurants are charging the same thing. Nobody can afford this. Well, I guess that's their prerogative. They're allowed to charge what they want. You can't come to me and tell me I have to do labor for you at a certain rate. Because ultimately what price controls come down to, anti-price gouging, is someone coming to you. Imagine they said this. I want you, dear viewer, to go work the register at McDonald's. And I know it's called McDonald's. I'm joking. And imagine you were like, I don't want to work at McDonald's. Well, no, you have to do it. You need the job, right? Well, I do need the money. Great. What is it worth for your skill set, your college degree, your 10 years of experience of mechanical engineering to work at McDonald's? You're like, I'm way overqualified. I don't want to do this job. You got to pay me $20 an hour. Wrong. You're only allowed to get paid $12 an hour because now you're price gouging. There's no difference. If a business says, for us to do the work, it has to be worth it, we're going to charge what engineering to work at McDonald's. You're like, I'm way overqualified. I don't want to do this job. You got to pay me $20 an hour. Wrong. You're only allowed to get paid $12 an hour because now you're price gouging. There's no difference. If a business says, for us to do the work, it has to be worth it, we're going to charge what we want to shut that down. Nonsense. But we'll talk all about this. I can't say I'm surprised. I want to give a shout out to our friends, the Krasensteins, for giving one of the greatest tweets I've ever seen where he's like, so what, I'm not kidding. He said, when the left controls prices and gives money to certain people, that's communism. And I'm just like, I can't believe the guy tweeted that. So we're going to have a lot of fun. I'm in a good mood this morning. And then we got the Kamala Harris Democrat event being attacked by far leftist pro-Palestine protesters. We've got a new poll showing people want Joe Biden to step down and resign the presidency. We knew this was coming. A new poll coming out showing around 60% of people saying Joe Biden should resign the presidency. Kamala Harris then becomes president. And Ted Cruz predicted this. And then, thanks to a popular request from everyone's favorite Raymond G. Stanley Jr., I got a cultural segment for you. It's this viral video of a woman who's pulling her pants down in an AT&T store and showing off her underwear while making strange noises. And everyone's like, why would someone film themselves going into an AT&T store and pulling their pants down and squeaking and making weird noises? I think this is TikTok melting the brains of people intentionally as a cyber weapon. Because this woman...
Okay, where's the gouging? When does he go back to this? I don't need this retarded culture war shit.
Don't worry, Trump's getting no special treatment from me. We'll talk about that in a second. The New York Times reports Vice President Kamala Harris will call for a federal ban on corporate price gouging on groceries in a speech laying out her economic agenda on Friday. Campaign officials said late Wednesday, in an effort to blame big companies for persistently high costs of American consumer staples. The plan includes large overlaps with efforts that the Biden administration has pursued for several years to target corporate consolidation and price gouging. Corporate consolidation, you start to have a real argument. They say including attempts to stoke more competition in the meat industry, fair, and the federal trade...
Wait, what's wrong with corporate consolidation, though? If you want to charge a certain amount, you have a right to do that, no? What? Wait, why does he feel so much differently about corporate consolidation? I'm curious. Maybe he'll lay out the details.
Commission's lawsuit this year that seeks to block the merger of two large grocery retailers, Kroger and Albertsons. First question, do Kroger and Albertsons overlap in territory? Otherwise, I don't know that it matters. It also follows through on what people familiar with Ms. Harris's forthcoming economic agenda said this week would be a centerpiece of her plans, an aggressive rhetorical attempt to shift the blame for high inflation onto corporate America. Polls show that argument resonates strongly with voters, including independent voters who could decide the November election. Welcome to the end, my friends, because people, they ain't smart enough to understand. When you spend $200 billion on foreign war, your prices go up. Okay.
I don't know if that's true. I need to stop being charitable that like, well, maybe he blah, blah, blah. I don't know what, like, I just don't know if that's necessarily true. I feel like there's a lot of ways that could be true and a lot of ways that couldn't be true. But this sounds like an incredibly complicated, like macro econ transaction. And the idea that it would so simply lead to also like the percentage of Ukrainian spending that we're doing compared to even just our discretionary budget I think our discretionary spending is over like $1 trillion per budget now, right? Are we just always spending that much money? Not even taking into account our non-discretionary, right? Does it? I don't know why I'm pretending like I would trust that he's done any amount of reading into this. But
when you spend $200 billion on foreign war, your prices go up. Okay, so I try to break this down simply. I'm not an economist, but there is something simple. When you mass print and mass produce money, and how do they do it? Well, money is created upon the issuance of debt in the United States. So when someone takes out a loan, they go, there's your money. Literally, when you spend money on a credit card, you're just creating money. That's it. Now, it's supposed to be paid back with interest, and the interest rates are to control.
Oh, God. I don't want to listen to this because I can't protect you from his misinformation. I don't trust him to understand anything, so I'm not even going to begin to try to. I know he hasn't done any macroecon studying ever, so I would never trust anything he says, but I don't think I have the depth of knowledge to dispute any of it. My intuitive feeling is that when a consumer spends money on a credit card, I don't know if that's the same type of money creation in the same way that when a bank is allowed to lend and only maintain a certain balance, or when like large Federal Reserve banks are lending either. I don't know. I'm not sure enough, but I would never trust him on any of these fucking topics. So